Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's episode, we're going to be doing a series preview for this Padres Mets series, which one of the most exciting series so far of the year for us Padres fans. The Mets are one of the best teams in the league, actually both New York teams right now, which is very, very interesting to see. As if you guys know, I do live in New York, so you've been seeing a bunch of Yankees and Mets jerseys. I think more than I definitely saw last year when I was moving in here. I think people were a lot more frustrated. But we're looking at this series. It looks to be a very, very fun one. So let's get into it. I mean, Isaac, what do you think about the pitching matchups for this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday games?
Oh, man, they're super fun. You look at it, I believe it's Carlos Carrasco against Blake Snell. Then it's Taijuan Walker against Yu Darvish. And then it's Chris Bassett against Sean Manaea. Oh, man, three such fun matchups. You look at the Padres side and you got Blake Snell, who's, I believe, going into his fourth or fifth start, had a rough first start, but his last couple of outings have been absolutely fantastic. Went against the Cardinals through six innings pitched. Unfortunately, allowed 2 runs, but it was only on 2 hits. It was essentially a 2-man wrecking crew, that series of Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. And those were really the only 2 runs that were put up on Blake Snell. So Blake Snell's been super good. Last time we faced the Mets, it was back in 2021, and he went 7 shutty. So I'm definitely expecting a good outing from him, as well as Carrasco. I believe he has a 3.83 ERA. I was looking at his baseball savant earlier. Best pitch is his changeup. His next best pitch is his sinker, averaging around 94 miles per hour. So nothing crazy, but nonetheless, he's been solid as a starter for the Mets this year. You look at the next pitching matchup, I really do think that Yu Darvish's ERA, if you just go based off stats, you might think, he's been okay. No, Yu Darvish has been fantastic. Yu Darvish has been everything he was last year. And outside of 2 outings, Yu Darvish, and I say last year, and I mean like beginning of last year, like up until June. But Yu Darvish he's pumping right now. Everything looks great for Yu Darvish. I expect nothing less from Yu Darvish. He's doing really good. I haven't looked too much into Walker. I just know he has a 2.82 ERA. Obviously, he's been talked about a lot in the media. Don't know too much about his pitches or anything, but he's always been a solid pitcher. Absolutely expecting a really, really solid pitching duel that day. The last matchup, I think you might see some offense. You got Sean Manaea, who's provided almost nothing but quality starts, keeps us in every single game. And you look at 2 of his best games have been against the Braves, who have a really solid lineup. And you look at the Brewers, who, although their lineup isn't that great, they are a well-rounded lineup. Had a really good outing against them last time. And I wish I could look into some starts he's had against the A's, but I don't want to go looking into that right now, at least. Maybe I'll put a tweet out about it or something. But Manaea has definitely been really solid for us this year. I believe he's in the high 3s, but it's just his ERA is bounced up because some of his starts have been like 4 or 5 runs. But he's been really good. And then you got Chris Bassett, who's had himself a really good season as well. And we expect nothing less. We actually were talking about Chris Bassett becoming a Padre. I believe it was over the offseason. We didn't talk about it much, but we were saying if there was a pitching guy, it would be Chris Bassett. And then you got, I already talked about Sean Manaea. But essentially, I was going to talk about their team stats. Matt will bring up some of the different player stats regarding these guys. But the team stats, you look at the Mets pitching. Their starters right now are 11th in ERA with a 3.75. The Padres starters have a 3.11 ERA. For you Padres fans, I think we made a bold prediction. We said we think the Padres will have a top 5 rotation. Right now, they're absolutely doing it. They've been fantastic. Oh, number 1.
Right now, they're number 1.
Oh,
right now they're the best rotation.
Yep. So they've been absolutely fantastic. Super good to see out of them. And the Mets, even though they're kind of down there, they also haven't had Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer all year. So their starting rotation is definitely holding up. I wanted to look at the bullpen. I didn't get a chance to look at the bullpen, but I'll pull them up right now. The best bullpen in baseball is the Astros. You got the Mets at 9. So with a 3.35 ERA, the Mets are at number 9 with the 9th best bullpen in baseball. Same thing. Oh, wow. The Padres actually went up kind of a lot. They were like ranked 25th not that long ago. Right now, they are 12th. And we had been saying all along the Padres, if they're able to be at the middle of the pack bullpen, will have a really good team. So they came up to 12th. So they're really close within each other. Lastly, I'll talk about the Mets hitting. The Mets lead the MLB both in average and on base percentage. There, I believe 9th it is in slugging percentage, and they have a really well-rounded lineup with, I believe, the 4th best OPS in baseball. So this is definitely going to be one of the best matchups of the year for sure. Us Padre fans are definitely super excited and expecting some really close games, I think.
Dude, and if you remember last year too, early on in the year, the Mets and the Padres had a super fun series. It was one of the best series of the year, I think. And I don't remember what the outcome was. I don't remember who won the series. I just remember that it was extremely entertaining. I remember DeGrom had a game where I want to say, was it Blake Snell that went like head to head with him, and it was like the first time when Snell like came out and balled out, and it was a fantastic pitcher. So it was super sick. Um, I think that was I think that DeGrom got like an RBI in that game. I swear it was something like that. It was something ridiculous. But no DeGrom Scherzer. That's definitely a good thing for the Padres in this one. The Mets are a good team. Mets are a fantastic team. Padres, they're a different team than they were last year. So Mets fans that are listening to this, you might be like, oh yeah, looking at these numbers, like Darvish has over a 4 ERA. Darvish has 2 starts that are completely inflating his ERA. If you took away those 2 starts, he's put quality start after quality start after quality start, and he got really roughed up a couple times. So that's basically been it for him. Snell, he has a high ERA, like 4.8, right? He's only pitched 3 games. It's very early in the year. He looked a lot better last game. And then Wednesday, Bassett and Manaea almost have identical numbers, which is pretty funny. But they're very, very solid starters. I think it just kind of shows how deep both of these rotations are, especially the Mets, honestly, because you look at it, they do not have DeGrom and Scherzer, and you said they're top 10 in ERA with their starters, which is very impressive, especially when you consider that they're expecting a lot out of DeGrom and Scherzer. They're expecting them to carry the load, and they've been able to get away with it. So getting into the Mets hitting stats a little bit, Isaac, you brought up how good of a team they've been hitting. The reason they've been so good is because they've been carried by Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has been an absolute monster. Over his last 99 at bats, he has 11 home runs on the season. He has 16 home runs. He has almost 1,000 OPS. He's been a baller. Similar to how Manny Machado has completely carried the Padres lineup. It's a lot like that. I think the difference with the Mets lineup, though, is that they have Francisco Lindor that's put up a really solid season, especially after last year's disappointment. Starling Marte, he hasn't been amazing, but he's been a really good player. We've seen how good of a player he's been for quite some time. And you've got some other guys stepping up for this team as well. Brandon Nemo's been pretty solid. Mark Canha's been pretty solid. Jeff McNeil's been pretty solid. I will say, don't know if any of these guys are injured right now. Haven't really kept up with the Mets injuries, but a lot of these players have just been solid, and then they've been carried by Pete Alonso. So recipe for the Padres in this one: don't let Pete Alonso beat you. Don't let Pete Alonso go deep, basically, and try to get these starters out of the game kind of quick. Hopefully have some timely hitting. I think when I'm looking at these pitching matchups, let's get into predictions a little bit here before we take off. But Monday, I think the Mets have the advantage. I think that, but the thing is like Snell might come out there and just absolutely pump. He might be ridiculous, right? That's kind of always the question with Snell is which one are you going to get? But Carrasco's been excellent. They're 6-1. He's 6-1. Like they've won a lot of those games where he's came in. So I'll give them the advantage in that one. Tuesday, you look at the ERA numbers, you might go, oh, you're going to take Walker over Darvish. I'm going to rock with Darvish in this one. Darvish has been better than what the numbers say because, you allow 10 runs in a one inning outing. It's going to completely inflate your ERA. Walker, yeah, his numbers have been fantastic. He's a very, very good pitcher. But he's a career mid-3 ERA guy. He's overachieving a little bit right now. And I think these are also, I don't think it's like a big switch for either of these games. I think they're pretty close. But I'll give the Padres the advantage in this one. And then honestly, it's the third game. I told you the numbers are like identical, so it's tough. But I think that this is kind of the flip game. I think you're going to see Monday the Mets win. I think Tuesday the Padres are going to win. I think Wednesday's going to be that flip game. Because Sean Manaea's look good, because a lot of the guys in the Padres lineup that we're not talking about today, but for all the Padres fans, if you guys listened to the live stream yesterday, we talked a lot about them. Jake Cronenworth, Trent Grisham, Luke Voigt. Those guys are producing right now, and they haven't been producing for the majority of the season. And you've seen what happens with the offense when they're solid contributors. They were solid contributors last series. So if that continues, if that hangs over into this series, the Padres should win this series. They should. It's going to be close. It's going to be I expect these all to be 1 to 2 run games or, for the majority of the game. Like they're all close games, but I think I'm going to rock with the Padres in this one. if the Mets were the home team, I'd probably go with the Mets in this one. If you had DeGrom instead of Bassett or something like that, like I'd probably go with the Mets. But I like the Padres 3 starters that they're throwing. I think that's going to give them an opportunity to come out and win this series. But I think it's kind of a flip series. I think you could easily see either of these teams win. So I'm going to go Padres win this series 2-1. I think it's going to be well fought both sides, but this is definitely one that could be a preview of a playoff series later in the year, which would be really awesome for me because I'd actually get to go.
Yeah, man, this is going to be such a fun series. If you're a Mets fan listening to this, I'm actually watching the Mets right now. Okay, cool. No, they're good. Going for the Mets. But if you're a Mets fan and you're watching this, it should be known that Petco is one of the worst hitting environments right now in MLB history. I believe it is one of the worst 5 right now as we speak. I don't know if that's going to continue. Obviously, the balls are flying a lot more these past couple of days, but right now, as we speak, Petco Park is definitely a tough environment to hit in. So I don't know if you should expect much offense, but if you look at the matchups, I think the Padres are going to win the first 2, and I think they're going to lose the last one. Not because Manaea is not good. Manaea is fantastic, but damn, he has such bad luck, man. It seems like every time he goes out there and he has the lead, somebody comes in and blows it or something bad happens. But yeah, I think the Padres are going to take the first 2. I think Blake Snell's going to go out there, and he has really good home outings. So absolutely expecting a good outing from both Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. Both of those guys can kind of be like toss-ups. And like I said earlier, Yu Darvish has had himself an amazing season, but there's always that one Darvish start in the month where you're like, oh no, something might be going wrong for Darvish. But it's only one bad start. The rest of the month is fantastic for him. But yeah, I think we're going to win the first 2. I think they're both going to be close. All of them are going to be close games. I really do think it's going to be like 1 or 2 run ball games each, just because such good pitching and such a hard hitting environment. But the Padres are really starting to turn, and it's only 3-game sample size, but they're kind of having more of a well-rounded lineup. Jurickson Profar had himself a great series. Trent Grisham has had himself a great last 15 games. 15 plus. Luke Voigt has had himself a great 20 games, and then Jake Cronenworth has had himself a really solid past 7 games. So now, of course, those are small sample sizes, but I mean, it's baseball's a numbers game, recent production. So you also got Manny, who's an MVP candidate right there with Mookie Betts and Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, those guys, and then you can't really
And
talk much about
Pete.
it. Yeah, Pete also didn't get to mention Pete. What'd you say? Like 11 home runs in his last whatever at bats. What is it?
I think it was 99 at bats, 11 home runs. But he
Yeah,
has 16 on the year, and he has really good offensive numbers.
Yeah, that is absolutely absurd. So he's definitely in there. But yeah, man, super fun series to look forward to. I'm really excited for it. I'm hoping the Padres are able to take 2. But like you said, it's kind of one of those toss-up series where you don't really know what's going to happen. And if you're a fan of either team, you would take just 1 win, I think. But I know New York fans can be pretty crazy.
Yeah, all right, guys. I think it's going to do it for today's episode. So thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you all very soon.